Welcome to the latest episode of the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. My name is Hunter Baumgardt, your host. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBOnAir. Be sure as well to like the Facebook page, Hunter Baumgardt Sports. Remember, you can watch or listen to the podcast. Simply watch on YouTube or listen on SoundCloud. Either way, just search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. Well, I am excited for this episode. I'm not super excited for the grounds in which we are talking about this topic. I was hoping that if I were to do a podcast on the return of Major League Baseball, that we would have a season in place, a time frame in place. We'd have the economics worked out, but that's not what's going on, and it's worrisome what Major League Baseball is going through right now, and I want to dive deep into this and talk about what this could mean for the future of Major League Baseball. The owners and the players negotiating on what will be the economic parameters of which how each will be paid for a 2020 season if and when it starts back up, or it starts up, I should say. I mean, we haven't even started the regular season, so it'd be starting up. And here's the thing. If the Major League Baseball season does not happen because of money, and not because of COVID-19, it could have catastrophic effects on the future of Major League Baseball, and the future of Major League Baseball is already shaky. I'm going to tell you what I mean, and it's not that I want gloom and doom for baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. Played it growing up, coached it for 5 years. Baseball is the sport I know the most about. I love baseball. I love the romance of baseball, right? The strategy of baseball, and that's part of the reason. It's a slower game. It's a more strategic game. Obviously, there's strategy in football and basketball and hockey. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying there's a lot of thinking in baseball. 90% mental. A lot of people say baseball is 90% mental, and that's one of the reasons baseball has struggled at some points to gain fans, especially in my age group, the age group growing up, because there are so many ways to consume content, and it's so easy to be distracted with phones, etc. You go to a ballpark, when we could go to ballparks, when you go to a ballpark, you see a ton of people on their phones, right? They're looking for something else to do because baseball isn't keeping their attention. So that's the issue that Major League Baseball is trying to tackle year in, year out. Then this pandemic hits, and all of a sudden they're struggling over economics, and then they might not have a season because of money being paid to each side. Man, oh man. I mean, that would have effects, and you know it's going to be in the back of the minds of baseball fans if this season does not happen. So let's get into the background here a little bit, okay? Let's get into the background. So there's agreement back in March where the players, I should say, will be paid on a prorated salary. I mean, for how many games they play, that's how much they'll get paid for. If they play 82 games, they'd be paid for 82 games, right? Like a half a season. That's already a pay cut for players because they're not getting paid for half their season. So they already took a pay cut, okay? The players want the MLB to honor that original agreement. They want the prorated salary. They want to be paid for the games they play. Now, owners want a 50-50 split of revenue. So they just want to split it, kind of, throw that previous negotiation out the window and say, okay, let's just do a 50-50 split of revenue. Basically, owners want more than what they get if the prorated salary went for the players, right? If the owners want more than what they originally bargained for in March. And it's a strange world right now, right? Because money is at a premium. There's no doubt about that. And with more people losing their jobs every day, it's tough to criticize people for wanting money. But man, oh man, when owners make billions, and I mean billions of dollars, there is a significant amount of Major League Baseball owners that are worth more than $1 billion. That's a lot of money. So for them to be greedy and wanting to take from the players here, that is an awful look during a global pandemic. Arguing over arguing over these massive amounts of money that either way they're going to have millions and millions and millions and millions still in their possession at the end of all this, right? Really, no matter what, right? They could lose some money, but man, the interest rate, I mean, everything, they are going to be okay. So taking a little bit of a pay cut and to be greedy like this during a pandemic, not a good look. Also not a good look, though, and I know there are many Major League Baseball players that make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not necessarily in the millions, but the average MLB salary is $4 million, okay? So players make on average about $4 million a year. If you take that cut in half, they say, okay, let's do prorated salary. We're playing half a season, so we're going to give you half the money. That's about $2 million, $1 to $2 million per on average that the MLB player would make. That's obviously plenty to live on in a year, okay? But in a society where what, $100,000 sets you up pretty darn good, and there are a lot of players that make less than $1 million, but still they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and half that, sure, that could possibly be a little detriment to them. But number one, it's better than not having a season at all, and number two, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm not going to place blame on either the owners or the players right now and through this podcast. That's not my take. My take is the owners and players in general, both of them are to blame in this, and both of them will see big losses in the future if they don't handle this right. There is a lot that's being handled not the greatest right now, and in many respects, because we all are going through this together. We have never experienced this in our lifetimes. This is just completely new territory. So I understand why there are some hiccups along the way, and in all aspects, in sports and politics and entertainment, all this stuff. There's hiccups and hiccups and hiccups. There's more every day, but baseball has an opportunity here to respond to adversity, right? When there is adversity, for instance, during these times, a lot of people gain respect or they lose respect during adversity, whether it be a pandemic hitting the world or whether it be just a breakup or a family issue, right? There's whatever the adversity may be, losing a job, taking a pay cut, all this, when adversity hits, respect is lost or it's earned in many respects. And ultimately, that's what this kind of comes down to. If the players and the owners don't come to an agreement because they can't come to an agreement over millions and millions of dollars, especially on the owner's side, not every player is going to make $1 million because of this. With the pay cut, they're already not going to make $1 million. But owners, they're in a pretty good spot. Now, 40% of the revenue is ticket sales, right? Is people coming into the ballpark, and I get that. That's a lot of revenue to lose, but the way that owners are set up right now, it really won't have much. So what I'm saying is, if Major League Baseball doesn't respond, and Major League by what I mean by Major League Baseball, players and owners, if they don't respond well to this adversity, and they are going to lose respect of their fans. They're going to lose respect through this. However, if they're able to make an agreement in a somewhat timely fashion without it getting ugly, and they start up spring training and they go through a half a season, and that all happens, and they're able to get the health out of the way. I'm not arguing that they should have a season no matter what. I'm saying that if the health is fine, taking the health out of it, if they say testing is good, if they feel comfortable going and having a season, if that's all out of the way, and all that's standing in between them and playing baseball in early July is simply money, economic impact, and that's the reason they don't have a season, respect is going to be lost by a lot of baseball fans. Think back to what happened in 1994. The season stopped. The season stopped in 1994, and there wasn't a postseason, there wasn't a World Series because of a strike. There were a lot of baseball fans that quit back then. And we could be setting up for the same scenario. And during a pandemic, that's just not where you want to be. You don't want to be talking about losing more fans if you're baseball. We've already talked about all the different things that baseball has tried to limit mound visits and maybe work with a pitch clock and all this stuff and the 3-batter limit. I mean, they've keep putting in new rules each and every year to make sure that the game speeds up to the most of its ability, right? However, there's just there's no coming back from what this would be if you don't have a season. If especially if the NBA comes back and the NFL finds a way to have games, but Major League Baseball doesn't have a season because of money, you know how bad that's going to look? If the NBA comes back in mid-July and finishes their season, if the NFL opens in September and October and plays a whatever, maybe 12 to 16 game season, and the NHL somehow finds a way to come back. If those three sports come back and Major League Baseball sit out because they can't decide on money, but Major League Baseball could be the return to somewhat normalcy and want to be part. They've said they want to be part of healing, and they want to be just like they were, say, in 9/11. I know it's completely different because it's two different scenarios, but they were in around 9/11. They were a big part of healing the nation, and they could be for this part as well. If that's all thrown out the window because of economics, I'm telling you, and the people in my age group who are watching this with a close eye, baseball fans, it could get ugly for them because they're already losing fans in my age group. They've lost some fans in the generation above me. There are less fans, and I just know, and from people that I've talked to and just people that I know, there are less baseball fans. I mean, there's so many more football fans than baseball fans just going to college. I just graduated recently from UW La Crosse, and just the football season compared to there are a ton of Brewers shirts on opening day, but really, I mean, when you think about the comparison between football and baseball, it's just not that. It's just the age group is baseball's losing this age group, and if you act greedy during a pandemic and do not get a deal done, that is just not going to shape up well. So there's so many sides to this, and obviously I'm not going to advocate for the owners or the players. I'm just saying both sides need to really, really look inside themselves here and say, okay, what are we really doing, and how can we actually be of help to this nation or actually make a deal here? I mean, one of the things that came out, and this is, you can take this at however you want to. Mark Teixera, those of you probably remember him from the Yankees. He had a pretty interesting statement about this. Now, he's done and he's made millions and millions and millions of dollars. So take this however you want to take this. But Mark Teixera said, I would rather make pennies on the dollar and give hope to people and play baseball than not make anything and lose an entire year off their career. So he'd make pennies on the dollar and give hope to people and play baseball than not make anything and lose an entire year off their career. Now, Alex Wood, a pitcher right now in Major League Baseball, retweeted it and said, this is such an awful statement, or just a dumb statement. I think it does sound a little dumb just because it doesn't sound dumb. It sounds out of touch because he's not playing. He doesn't understand, he's never had to deal with something like this before while playing, right? He's set with millions and millions and millions. He had a massive contract with New York. He's going to be set for life. There is nothing riding on Major League Baseball coming back for him. So, except maybe his analyst role or whatever. But, right, so it's a little out of touch. So take this from the owner's side, right? If you lose an entire season to Major League Baseball, like Teixera said, taking an entire year off their career, but let's take it from the owner's side, taking a whole year off of profit, right? Zero comes in revenue. You don't even get the 60% you would have, even if you had a season without fans, right? Or a half a season without fans. Not even 60%, but whatever it would be. You lose out on all that. You get zero. You wouldn't rather at least make some money and maybe bend to the players a little more because of your millions and billions of dollars you have, and bend to the players a little more and have a season or a half a season and bring hope to the nation and bring hope to the world? Baseball is a global sport. It is. And it's not only going to bring hope to people in this country, but a lot of countries around the world that there's semi-normalcy. There's a lot of global Premier League is coming back. Sports leagues in Germany, and obviously the Korean Baseball League is coming back. There are sports leagues coming back. So if Major League Baseball doesn't, and they can't decide over money, I mean, that's just awful. And Mark Teixera's point, like I said, can go for owners and players. Sure, players, there's a lot of them that probably would agree with Teixera that say, you know what, I do want to go out there and I'm going to make enough to feed my family and have a better than good life. And I would love to play baseball because that's my passion, right? It's not all about the money. And then there's going to be some players that say no. Teixera, no. I want my money. I worked really, really hard to get to the major leagues, and now that I'm here, I want my money. Owners, there's going to be two sides to this as well. Probably some owners do really want to have baseball and want to bring hope to the nation and can take a little bit of a pay cut. Other owners probably don't want to, but I think as a group, both sides are getting both sides, the players and the owners, are kind of getting grouped together in this. And sure, there are going to be people on both sides of the spectrum, on both sides, both of the owners and the players, of what they want. But they really need, everybody needs to come to meet in the middle here, discuss it like adults and not be entirely greedy, because we're in the middle of a pandemic that nobody, really, unless you've lived 100 years old, has been through. And it's going to look awful if there's no MLB season this year. And like I said, people turn on the league. They just will. And I don't think people necessarily turn on the NFL if they don't have a season, even if it's because of money. I don't really think people would necessarily turn on the NBA. NHL, they're a whole different breed because they're just, it's just the mainstreamness of NHL is still not there. I mean, they're a ways behind baseball even. So it's just not there. But if the NFL or the NBA did this, I feel like people would still come back and watch. The NFL the most. The NFL by far the most. The NBA iffy. Baseball, people would come back and watch next year, but it would be different, and it would be in the back of the minds for the rest of the life. This pandemic is going to be something that people talk about forever, absolutely forever. Whoever is living now, especially people in their, like me, low to mid 20s that are living right now, this is going to be in how everything went down. The closures that people have never seen before, the social distancing, all of this is going to be in our minds forever. And we are going to be telling our kids and grandkids about this forever. And if baseball not coming back because of an economic inability by the owners and players to come to an economic agreement is part of what's in the back of the mind when you think about this coronavirus pandemic, that is not a place the MLB wants. They want to be in your mind, no doubt about that, and they want baseball to be in the forefront of your mind because it's baseball, right? But they don't want it to be in the back of the mind thinking about, okay, oh yeah, the NFL came back. Oh yeah, the NBA came back. Baseball didn't come back because they couldn't agree on a money issue. I promise you, that's just not going to be what baseball is going to want. But it could happen, and I think a deal will get done, and it'll come down to health, whether this season happens or not. But I could honestly see also a season not happening if health is figured out. The economics being a reason they don't. And the thing is, like the CBA expires between in baseball December 1st of 2021. It's after next year. Wait and do this then. Don't do this now during a pandemic. There's, the owners aren't sharing their, basically, and this was put really, really well by my buddy Grant Bills on his Wisco Sports Show on WKTY. Definitely tune in 5 to 6 weekdays. And he said this a couple days ago, and this is exactly what it is. The owners, and let me get this exactly right for you. The owners have refused to share the profits with the players during fruitful years. So now the players are getting them back by not wanting to take losses in the bad years. Or in this bad year, I should say. We're not in years. We're in one bad year. So, you get that? The owners have refused to share the profits with the players during good years, right? Sure, there's obviously the players are paid, but it's not like they're to no end. They just continue to share their profits. So now they're going back to the players and saying, well, players, you should take a pay cut because, we're getting less revenue. But now the players are saying, no, you haven't given us the money during the fruitful years. We're not going to take losses in the bad year, right? You're already where you are. You don't need, you can take a pay cut now. We don't have to take a pay cut now. And that makes sense to some extent. But let's talk about that in December of 2021. All right? Let's talk about in January of 2022. Let's not talk about that during a pandemic where we've lost over 80,000 Americans. This is not the time for that negotiations. Make a fair deal. Make sure that everybody can be paid enough to feed their families, etc., to have a good life, etc., for the next year. Hopefully we'll have just a normal year next year. And think about the world in general right now, not just what's going on in front of you. And this is gonna get ugly. This is gonna get ugly now, and it's probably gonna get ugly in 2021. But man, back to the main point. If Major League Baseball does not have a season because of money and not because of COVID-19, it could have catastrophic effects for the future of Major League Baseball. And the future of Major League Baseball is already shaky. Remember, you can watch or listen to the podcast. YouTube, you can watch, listen on SoundCloud. My name is Hunter Baumgardt, your host. You can feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HunterBOnAir. So feel free to do that. Follow the Facebook page as well, Hunter Baumgardt Sports. And hope you enjoyed that episode. Hopefully it gave you some perspective, kind of give you some background about this, what's going on in Major League Baseball, and kind of a little bit of both sides as well. Like I said, I'm not taking a side. It's just is what it is. It just is what it is, and I think both sides are to blame a little bit. But we'll follow this, and maybe we'll even have another podcast coming up next week talking about it. Looking to get a guest on as well next week. So I'll give you all the updates again on the Twitter and Instagram at Hunter B on Air. Make sure for sure the Twitter Hunter B on Air, and you know where to find the podcast because you found this one, right? On YouTube and SoundCloud, just search Hunter Baumgardt Sports Podcast. Well, thanks so much for watching or listening, and be safe. I know we here in Wisconsin, the safer at home order was struck down by the Supreme Court, so now things are a little more open. So just be safe, and hopefully we can all get back to having a semi-normal life, and hopefully we can get to sports being back, because I don't want to talk about money issues and greed. I'd rather talk about how long Brent Suter is going to go tomorrow night against the Cincinnati Reds. That's what I want to talk about. Or a rain delay. Give me a rain delay. I miss rain delays. Watching the rain pour down. Watching Brian Anderson and Bill Schroeder announce a tarp coming onto the field. That's what I miss. Anyway, hopefully we'll get that soon. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, night, whenever you may be watching. And as always, stay positive.